Hello and welcome to Campaign Comrades, your favorite leftist gaming podcast. I'm your host, Ben, and with me as always are my co-hosts.
It's me, Matt.
What up? It's Andrew.
Mike is busy studying for finals again this week, so he is off the hook.
School.
Yeah, fucking nerd.
Schools for fools.
Nerd.
Look at me, kids. I dropped out of school too.
So I apologize for not being here last week. I am currently dealing with an illness. I am on the mend. Don't be worried. But if I lag a little bit here in today's recording, I do apologize. But hopefully, should be.
I'd like for you, whenever you're feeling that way, just to say that you have the vapors.
Oh yeah, just oh my, oh good heavens.
I thought we handled it pretty well last week.
Last week was a great episode.
Just
I listened to it, which is a rare thing for me to do. I hate listening to the episodes once we do.
Yeah, but it was one where you weren't
exactly.
involved.
I wasn't there, so I wasn't just constantly just judging my own performance. But no, I thought you guys did a really good job.
You just constantly judged ours instead.
But no judgments to be had. I thought you guys were you guys handled yourselves with aplomb.
We were only canceled like twice.
Yeah, only a couple times. It's better than our previous record. But yeah, one thing that's been keeping me going through the sickness is I've been making my way slowly but surely through the Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga game.
Would you say it was keeping you down with the sickness?
Oh yeah, I've been largely enjoying it, but it gets to my heated gaming moment and also our first kind of story of the week. It's more of an ongoing story, but I know I've mentioned it on stream when I've played the game. I think I before I first started the game, I had to preface it with, even though the game is fun and we like the game, cannot go without criticizing the developer TT Games for absolutely unreasonable and hostile development practices. There were many reports of intense crunch, developers having mental breakdowns, not getting paid what they should. That report came out when the game launched. But then the recent thing has been new insight has been offered in response to that initial report. The big thing being that while the employees have said that largely the practice of crunch has been somewhat reduced, the leadership at TT has been incredibly dismissive of the reports. They've even gone so far as to claim that initial reporting was tailored to coincide with the release in order to drum up clicks for Polygon. They're the ones who first broke the story. There is even in this newest report that I'm referencing.
I was going to say denial is one of the first steps.
Yeah,
that's an awesome take.
It's like, no, you're fine. You guys, your mental health breakdown.
It's not us who's the problem. Yeah. It's everyone else who's out of touch.
Right. They this recent report. This one was in Fanbyte. They're talking about there's been complaints amongst employees about just gross mismanagement, not even just the poor treatment of themselves. Like one of the ones that stuck out to me was like they were hard at work developing some things for a level, some puzzles or whatever, for a level. It had turned out that those bits had been canceled like weeks or months prior, but nobody ever told them. So they were.
Man, I love the lack of communication where it's like, oh, what have you been working on for the past 3 months? Oh, I've been doing this. Oh, we canceled that. Why are you doing that?
It was like something like the guy who is responsible for it was recently promoted to some like senior position, and the ironic bit is like his previous position was like director of communications or whatever, or like employee communication or whatever. So it's just like could not hit the nail harder on the head. It was just absolutely ridiculous. But it's just,
I mean, that sounds like a perfectly structured organization with clear lines of communication.
Right. I've definitely been there as a designer before. It wasn't months of work, it was weeks, but it's like I've definitely been on the receiving end of like, oh, we scrapped that idea.
True professionalism.
how do you even respond to that? If I worked on something for 3 months and then was told, oh, that got canceled 3 months ago, I that would maybe be the thing to make me go post.
It's like, well, fuck, I mean, fuck me then, right?
Again, my 2 week like productivity loss for that was basically like he told me that I like clicked out of SolidWorks, like shut my computer off. And, like, went down to the machine shop and just like bent some metal for like an hour.
Had to release the tension somehow.
I was like, "Is there something I can do to help you down here?" And they're like, "Yeah, can you do this?" And I like went and like did some like machining and shit for like a little bit
take
out
your
de-stress.
rage,
and then went back
on the raw materials.
Like, what would you like me to do?
But so I think again, you just can't escape the fact that this game was a product of terrible workplace practices, and to my heated moment that that Matt can speak to, because our one experience with the multiplayer was beyond glitchy. The whole point before we actually describe what happened.
You don't understand. We were like couch co-op, a game that's finally letting us
that's
sit
what is
this?
What is couch co-op? I forgot what that was, but like
everyone but Nintendo doesn't just pretends it doesn't exist.
We just we can't go any further without saying that crunch does not work for what the people who employ it say that it does. It, if anything, it only increases the amount of bugs and glitches that make it into the final product. So what was happening is
we were trying to play co-op.
Yeah, we played couch co-op. We were playing the final mission of episode 3 of Revenge of the Sith. It was the
the climactic.
Yeah, the duel between Anakin and Obi-Wan. And
wait, do you get to duel as Anakin and Obi-Wan?
You only play as Obi-Wan, no. but what happened was it
was oops all Obi-Wan.
Yeah. Oh no, everybody's Obi-Wan. It started spawning in extra Obi-Wan, so we would be switching back and forth from each other, and it just kept freaking the fuck out and just not realizing
it's
where Obi-Wan was supposed to be.
3PO and
R2, I think. In R2.
R2.
Yeah.
But the second you switch characters, the character that you were also becomes
Obi-Wan. Yeah, it was C-3PO would just turn into Obi-Wan, and it was just absolutely
we ended up having a hard crash at one point
because of it. Yeah,
because we hit the climactic part where the second player just gets to little brother mode and just watch, where we're supposed to just be in the background on a platform, and we had two Obi-Wans on screen at the same time for a brief moment.
And it was just trying to reconcile who was who and which one was supposed to be the main one. And it's oh nope, we got to shut down. We got to turn this off.
Yeah, and the game just was nope, shut it down. That's not how it's supposed to be.
So then when we restarted it, it did the same thing again. It just actually let us finish it.
It powered through the moment.
Yeah.
Just well, I guess there's two Obi-Wans now.
So that was the co-op experience, but I've had several other quite glitchy levels. I'd say the ones that are maybe most excusable because there's an easy fix are several of the flying levels. They're mainly chase levels. So it's when Obi-Wan chases the bounty hunter in the beginning of episode 2, and then the speeder bike scene on Endor, where it's basically you're just going forward. You're not even controlling speed. It's just going, and you're trying
temple run.
Yeah, and you're trying to shoot something, and it's just the shots are not connecting. You're it's the one for the speeder bike. It's just you're shooting the ground. The aiming the sight thing is just
fundamentally off
in the ground, so you're not hitting anything. So all you have to do though is go into the settings, turn aim assist back on, and it took care of it, no problem. So then you just got to turn it back off, because that's one thing. The aim assist is way too aggressive. I mean, it's a kid game, so helping the kids, sure, that's fine, but for anybody who's not 10 years or younger.
You don't feeling your aim sucked onto a character if it gets remotely near them?
No.
That's right. I just said sucked on.
I like the aim assist where you just let go of the button to look down the scope and then hit it again, and it'll just jump to the next guy and just be on his chest.
Yeah. There are certain games where the aim assist is more more egregious than my experience looking at like FPS like aimbotters. Like aimbotters have this like unnatural like snappiness to how they move around. Like there's sometimes when you like rewatch something and it's like aim assist and you're like, oh yeah, I have to forget there's an AI that's also just like snapping their aim to characters and not just the person themselves on the sticks.
Yeah.
The most recent one that I experienced was on the trench run from New Hope, which in my opinion has got to be the most inexcusable. One of the most classic, iconic moments.
It needs to be right.
It needs to be crisp and work right. But like you're trying to shoot down TIE fighters, they're just fucking doing curly cues and just like you see them just going just like vibrating on screen, just going fucking crazy.
Oh my God.
Like, oh my God, it was nuts. So it has not been the most polished experience by far. Like, it's
what's weird about that? There were other Lego Star Wars games that already existed that I'm sure didn't have these like same issues in a vacuum. Like when you already have existing, you're just updating.
Well, this was technically built from the ground up.
Oh, well,
there you go. There you go.
That's what happens when you neglect previous work.
Yeah. Or just let resources work on things that have been canceled for 3 months as opposed to maybe doing something productive. Like, I think it's kind of funny. Like, it fits. It's like, okay, look at this story. This company literally couldn't like properly communicate that people needed to change what they were working on for 3 months, a quarter of a year. Like, that's a lot of wasted time. Do you think Crunch?
I'm assuming that the people who work in that section. I'm assuming what they do is they show up to work, they swipe their badge, they go into their like secluded corner of the office, where they're secluded from everyone else. They shut their door, and they're just in there, working away, and no one talks to them. No one comes gives them direction. I've seen it. I've seen how those sections work.
For sure. No, I just think it's funny. It just speaks to not a great culture. So like obviously Crunch isn't going to make a game much better. If anything, it's going to lead to more issues because people are working fucking 80 hours a week.
Look at companies asleep. Like Insomniac. Insomniac doesn't implement Crunch in any sort of way that is noticeable, and their games just come out good. Like, not to like fanboy a little bit, but like, when's the last time Insomniac released a bad game?
No, it's like, as much as like we are more prone to being critical of these companies. Like Matt and I were talking about, like what's likely upcoming in the next Sony
State of Play,
showcase type thing. It's like, if Insomniac shows us anything, it's like, again, it's like they can basically do no wrong at this point. Again, of course, we're probably going to end up having to eat those words, but you'll never catch us in a mea culpa.
I just feel like there comes a point where their releases, like, what's their worst recent release? The Ratchet and Clank 2016,
which was still pretty good.
Reboot retelling.
Was still pretty good.
Yeah,
I enjoyed that.
Which is by no means a bad game.
No,
right.
Well, the only bad thing about that was that it wasn't original.
Yeah,
I mean, it kind of was. It went different directions.
Yeah,
at certain points.
That's fair.
All right, so we've got a lot of different stuff to talk about today. But before we go into actually news of this week,
a word from our sponsor.
Well, I did want to bring up. This is something that we had in the notes for last week, but then again, because I had to drop out last minute, we decided to push it out till this week. So I forget the actual date, but it would have been last week or the week before. Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons and Dragons have jumped on the bandwagon of doing their own independent showcase type thing, even using the wording and language of Nintendo. There was D&D Direct. They had
hilarious.
They've always had their yearly celebrations thing where they do games and live plays.
Yeah, I'm surprised Nintendo didn't take that down for copyright.
Right. Like no, we own that.
We own the word direct.
Yeah. Like they get up on stage and two people in Mario hats are lowered down from the ceiling and they just take the word direct off and leave.
But it was the same exact format. It's like a digital only 30-40 minute presentation, and there was a bunch of stuff that they talked about throughout their various properties. Because as anybody who's obviously remotely input into the tabletop space, for largely for worse, D&D is still on the ascendant. It is showing no signs of slowing down. This is like, it was not part of this presentation, but they're making their own moves in the digital space by officially buying out D&D Beyond, and probably are gonna end, this is just speculation, but probably gonna end up turning that into some kind of virtual tabletop thing that's going to coincide with the new rules release and all that kind of stuff. So, and I mean, they've got all sorts of other media properties. That was like one of the announcements was stuff on the title for the Chris Pine starring D&D movie. It's like Dungeons and Dragons, like Honor Amongst Thieves or something like that. That's what it's called.
With Chris Pine?
Yeah, he's been attached for a while now.
We got to get Hollywood away from their Chris's, man.
He's one of the Chris's I don't mind.
There's too many of them. Cut it down. We only get 2.
Got to pick 2, lose 2. But yeah,
Chris Pratt twice.
Yes.
Chris Pratt and Chris Pratt with a mustache.
Italian Chris Pratt. Yeah. Gotta go. So the major news, though, in terms of the actual tabletop stuff that's gotten everybody talking, is the return of 2 classic settings, the Dragonlance settings and Spelljammer. There's a whole bunch of stuff like involved. Like there's not just adventure modules and all that. Dragonlance is even including the development of a miniatures-based war game, like a 40K style game, because in the lore of the thing, there is like an actual war that goes on, the War of the Lance. So there's a way that apparently they are working to make that kind of segue in and out of the actual adventures that they're going to put out for Dragonlance, as well as ways that you can, for those who are not interested or able to participate in the miniature to do the war game version, they're saying they're going to have like creative ways for DMs to run that aspect of the campaign as well.
I'm not gonna lie, that kind of sounds cool.
I mean, hey, I'm a miniatures fan. My only complaint is that WizKids miniatures fucking suck. They are cheap. The paint jobs are terrible. And they're all, said all these are pre-painted. I mean, even the unpainted WizKid miniatures fucking suck. They're shitty PVC that have just terrible production. I remember seeing this thing one time. It's like a good model or a bad model or a bad designer by if they put the mold lines running across the face. And hands down, every single fucking WizKids miniature has a mold line running across the face. It's fucking terrible. And they're cheap PVC plastic, so they're hard to remove. And like, it's just that's the bummer to me. It's like, give me some good quality miniatures. I'll pay for like the good injection molded plastic.
If you don't want to make the miniatures, Wizards, just sell the STL files.
Also something that would be, I think, be much better. I would totally be on board for that.
I'm just sitting there and thinking from the perspective of like, you can make so much money off just the file.
Right. I mean, in terms of production
cost, put anything into manufacturing.
Right. Exactly.
But the thing is, once you put that file on the internet, like,
it's free.
How many places is it going to be free?
It's essentially free.
Yeah, okay, but like, think about it this way:
you're gonna get a slightly adjusted version on Thingiverse.
I put it on my 3D scanner, and then I put the model on the GitHub. It's the same, like,
right?
Yeah. That's fair.
It's the same amount of effort. Realistically, you're just cutting out the fact that I have to use my 3D scanner to do it.
That's fair.
I'm probably, however, most interested in Spelljammer. That's just the set that is most exciting to me. Just astral space pirates basically is the whole thing. It's like these sailing ships.
That just scratches a good itch for me.
Right.
You remember the movie Treasure Planet?
That's
the retelling
when that came out, everyone was like posting memes of like everybody's next D&D campaign, and it's just stills of Treasure Planet, and that is a perfect, kind of encapsulation of what Spelljammer was in terms of the
Is that
aesthetic.
a Disney movie?
Yeah, it is, I think.
Fuck, so that means it's on Disney Plus. Damn it.
I'm pretty sure it was a Disney movie.
A very young Joseph Gordon-Levitt played the central character.
Ooh, I didn't know that. That's a good one. That's a good.
He's also an immortal vampire, so you don't really need young.
Yeah, it was a little bit unnecessary. But so Spelljammer is going to include the release of 3 source books. So they're going pretty hard with that one, which is going to be cool. So there's going to be the Astral Adventurer's Guide. So it's going to have all sorts of stuff for players. That's going to have different playable races and subclasses and all that kind of stuff.
Cool.
Then you have Boo's Astral Menagerie, a bestiary with astral specific creatures,
beasties,
which is cool. I don't know if you guys knew this, that Spelljammer was the origins of Mind Flayers.
Oh,
that's where they first came into D&D.
So
if I was to develop time travel and go back then and prevent them from being existed, I wouldn't have to contend with them in modern fantasy media.
I love Mind Flayers. That's why I'm so excited. Like the early cinematic trailer for Baldur's Gate 3 is what sold me on it, because the Mind Flayers just zipping throughout like the cosmos. It basically was like, oh, this looks like Spelljammer. That looks sick.
Wait till you meet. If you ever play the Demon Souls remake, wait till you meet the Mind Flayers in the Tower of Latria, and then ask me your opinions on it.
So is Spelljammer from like the 80s, the original?
Yeah, it's got that has to. I don't think it was as early as the 70s, but yeah, it was a relatively early on setting. But yeah, the final book, I don't know how the fuck to pronounce this. The Light of Xeraxes or something, whatever. That's the actual campaign book that has it's like 12 episodes that can be linked together to a larger campaign.
It's actually
some Men in Black 2 shit. The Light of
Sarsis.
But
the Light of Zartha.
I'm interested. I'm intrigued. I'll probably get at least the. I'm more interested in Spelljammer. Dragonlance, I can kind of I could take it or leave it. I've read some of the books that was the origin of Dragonlance, which leads me to the next thing. Is what's interesting for these two is after the announcement, the original creators of Dragonlance and Spelljammer have both come out and been like, yeah, Wizards did not approach us or have us involved at all, which is actually probably a good thing. Because it's not surprising, because there are several ongoing lawsuits, primarily between the Dragonlance creators and Wizards about not releasing previous stuff. But there's the fact remains is that all these creators are completely out of touch at best, or if not outright chuds at the worst. Like the original material is has some really bad stuff in it, like some really bad racial essentialism. There's this whole race of dwarves in the Dragonlance things that are just they're basically mentally disabled and are just looked down upon as creatures to enslave and all this, and it's just, there's just a whole bunch of shit that's just really bad from the original source material. It's again, why I like Spelljammer is the aesthetic. I mean, I have no touchstone for the original material. It's just the idea that I find.
Are you speaking to the creators of Dragon Slayer or both?
Dragonlance, you mean? No, both.
Yeah, sorry, Dragonlance.
Both. I saw something the other day of some screenshots from original Spelljammer stuff, and it's some really weird Orientalism going on as well.
Perfect. Of course. I mean, it is the 80s. It's still a pretty
which was wild to me, because it wasn't the actual I'm blanking on the name of there was a book that was supposed to be or their own source book of an Asian inspired setting that if listeners want to check out the Asians Represent podcast and stream, they do a great job of, it's a bunch of Asian tabletop creators who they like go through and they like read the book cover to cover and breaking down why it's so fucked up, why it's so bad, like, and have then gone on to create their own authentic and
that's cool.
Subclasses and stuff like that. So that's
if they let these people do the new one, the like big bad at the end would end up being George Soros figure.
Right. These people are ancient too. They're really old. It's like they are.
Oh yeah.
Again, it's like at best you could say they're out of touch. And it's like I think that is being way too generous to them. So
his name would end up being J-U-U, Jew.
Absolutely.
Oh, no.
Man, like I gotta say, like I have no I have no sympathy for them whatsoever. Like they have seen more than enough profits and success from these franchises. They don't need to support them in any way. Not to say that it's good to support Wizards of the Coast. They're a fucked up company in their own right. And this is not an endorsement of whatever they're going to put out. They still put out really bad stuff.
Oh yeah, 100%. No, yeah, I saw your note that the original creators weren't involved, and I was a little like, oh, all right, well that's kind of fucked up. They didn't at least get them involved, but now you're right.
It is definitely better that they did that.
Now, even though we know the context, your past self is canceled, so inadvertently you are canceled, my friend.
I already mentioned
retroactively.
And the last thing, though, I mentioned it briefly that the new Baldur's Gate 3, that was one of the final announcements, is that they apparently the Larian Studios Baldur's Gate 3 will be finally leaving early access in 2023. No actual date given though. So the memes have
December 31st.
Yeah, that's what the memes have all been. Is December 31st at 11:59 p.m. is when it goes live for the full game.
Definitely. Everyone's sitting. They don't hear anything the entire year, and they're like, "Well, that means it has to go live right here." And then the Larian Studios comes out, and they're like, "It'll go live December 32nd." And you're like,
oh no, it's a leap year. We have an extra day.
Fuck. Oh man.
So yeah, I don't have a whole lot of hope that doesn't get continually, delayed indefinitely.
What's the Shigeru Miyamoto? Is it Miyamoto?
The delayed game.
The delayed game
will eventually be good, but a rush game is forever bad. No, I don't. I'm never of a mind to rush creators or stuff like that. My opinion was don't put it in early access fucking 3 years early.
Yeah, I think
take your time and work on it.
Especially because 3 years early. So like the whole point of like early access is like there's no better beta tester than the actual monkeys who are going to be putting their hard-earned keyboard and mouse time in on this game, and it's like. 3 years ago, the problems that were in that code would probably have been solved without the beta testers, and they could have been progressing further along so that by the time the players get their hands on beta copy, it's more complete, more finished.
No, they always say exactly like if you're down even to this day, they'll say like, oh, if you're downloading the early access thing, don't expect a polished product. That's like word for word what they say. And it still costs full price for the early access. Like, you only get Act 1, and apparently it's dog shit. Like, by their own admittance, it's not good.
I'm picturing like all of like the pre-rendered cutscenes and like everything being beautiful on like the menu, and then the second you load into game, like PS2 era texture, like literally flat gradients,
just like people are triangles.
All right, so yeah, that
Laura Croft walks over with her cone.
Yeah, that's what I was exactly thinking of. Cone boobs.
Convenient transition.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a good one. Because that leads us to our major news of the week has been the rather surprising sales made by Square Enix Holdings Company Limited to the ominously named Swedish holding company Embracer Group. that included the studios Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, Square Enix Montreal, and the catalog of IPs, including Deus Ex, Thief, Legacy of Kain, and Tomb Raider. But what's so surprising is the price. They sold all that shit for $300 million, like, which in terms of all those IPs are worth is nothing. That is a fucking drop in the pond. Like I read something that's like it's who was it that bought oh no, it was Embracer who bought Gearbox a year or two ago for $1.3 billion. They bought one studio for $1 billion more than they bought all this shit. It's insane. It is absolutely insane to me.
Just for
I think
awareness. So Square Enix has a net worth of 5.9 billion, and this sale equates to 5% of their net worth.
Nuts. That's absolutely nuts to me.
Which is like nothing.
It's insulting, is what it is.
I mean, we've discussed it in the group chat, but we'll discuss it here too. It's one of those things that it just really seemed like they were kind of done with the studio, and they just didn't care anymore, and they just wanted to move on with it.
As it's been shown out, they've like these studios have not made them any money, which I think is solely at the fault of Square. You know, it is purely mismanagement.
Square has had some dubious issues of late.
I have like a statistic here that like in 2021, Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal had profit margins of 3.6% and 0.65% respectively.
0.65%.
So like no surprise,
not
they
even
ended
making
up selling this off.
And one of, like, speaking of not making money, one of the Western IPs that they held on to, Outriders, has not made a profit, and according to the developers, will probably never make a profit.
May never make a profit.
Yeah, they're like, okay, let's hold on to this one.
I knew something was wrong with that game when it was thrown in for free like a month after launch with my computer.
Yeah, where did you get that? Where did you? Through what storefront did you get that?
NZXT just gave me a download code for Steam.
Weird. That's wild to me.
And do you know what the best part is? I didn't even download it. I just put the card away somewhere, and I don't know where it is, and I don't really care.
Yeah, I have no interest in playing that game.
I will say, like, I don't think I know that it's cheap, but I honestly I would assume that Square Enix didn't just sell these at a complete fire sale price. Like, I'm sure that, you know, depending on how much
let's think about it for a second. How many of so you listed off a bunch of IP they sold. When's the last time most of those got an update?
Yeah, when is Deus Ex
Tomb Raider's the most recently
had a game.
Right. No, and like the recent stuff is Marvel Avengers, which is losing $200 million. So
technically it would be Guardians, which did
one did well.
Not according to them though. It was still quote unquote disappointing.
Yeah, it didn't meet their expectations.
But that also,
but it was a considerably better game than Marvel's Avengers.
When they say that though, they also like are referencing like critical response and things like that. So I think financially it still sold pretty well.
But yeah, like a Marvel's Avengers.
The thing is, it took them too long. It took like
$200 million.
For Guardians, it took too long. It has since hit its their supposed projection, but for them it took too long.
Yeah, I mean, but I do think, you know, this is the market told them to some extent, like that's what these are worth right now.
Sure.
There's going to be some interesting stuff because now Embracer Group has to re-up the licensing agreement with Disney over Avengers and Guardians.
And I think that's probably the big reason why this doesn't sell for as much as we would have expected, because do we really think Disney's going to do that? I don't know.
No, because Disney's
going to... How long till Disney makes their own video? Yeah, exactly. How long?
So like Disney the interesting thing there is Disney and Square have a pretty good relationship because of Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
Which is probably what gave them the freedom to get Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy. Now that Square Enix isn't involved, I would assume Disney and Embracer aren't going to have the same type of professional relationship
Right.
that they've already formed with Square.
Yeah.
So
I think
you mentioned how, like, again, it's what's so odd about, like, seeing this long list of IPs, but like how Square themselves has basically grossly mishandled all of them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
have not seen any updates. It's also worth noting that in the announcement that Embracer made to like all its shareholders and stuff, saying, oh, we've got all this stuff, we're so excited about it, like it represents all this new IP that we can work with. The only thing that they actually confirmed is the existence of a new Tomb Raider game in the works from Crystal Dynamics. However, among other unnamed AAA games, again solely at Crystal Dynamics, the other three studios, which equate to roughly 1,100 employees, 8 global locations. Nothing. There was no word in the announcement that they intend to do anything actually with that IP.
I mean, I think one of the more disappointing things about this is some of those IPs, like Deus Ex. Deus Ex is a really cool idea, like a really interesting series. It's cyberpunk before cyberpunk, realistically speaking. Like I have a bunch of those old Deus Ex games there. You can always get them for pretty cheap on Steam. It's just like it'd be cool if we could have gotten a modern take on Deus Ex or a modern reboot or something along those lines. I hate using the R word like that, but they're gonna end up being, just rotting in a different company's coffers.
So when the announcement was made, Square, gave their own statement, saying that the sale will assist the company in, quote, adapting to the changes underway in the global business environment by establishing a more efficient allocation of resources, which will enhance corporate value by accelerating growth in the company's core businesses in the digital entertainment domain, which is just all a bunch of corporate speak for this next bit. In addition, the transaction enables the launch of new businesses by moving forward with investments in the fields including blockchain, AI, and the cloud. Because if anything, is we've talked about this before, that Square are they're at the forefront. They're extremely bullish on like Web3 and all that entails, including say blockchain gaming, play to earn, all that kind of shit. That despite all the backlash, they are say like there was the notorious New Year's letter.
Yes.
And the president doubled down on it in April, like less than a month ago.
From my perspective, it almost looks like the success of Final Fantasy 14 has kind of like poisoned their thinking in a little way.
Sure.
Not to be exaggerating a bit, but I think Final Fantasy 14's explosion and the way that it's been handled, it's a really good MMO. It's even like hooked me into wanting to look into playing it. It's one of those things that you just look at what they're doing right now and how much more live service they want to do, and you kind of see where it's all coming from.
I mean, I will say, like, I largely don't think NFTs fit into general gaming that well, like how they've tried to do it with some of the shooters and shit like that. I don't think NFTs align with those style of games great. However, the online MMO type of game does kind of help. Like the NFT does work more there because those things already kind of create.
Oh, now I have the only copy of the Sword of Milos.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and there are people, like, think about
they already have artificial
like
scarcity built into that to those models.
100%.
Absolutely.
So
if it's gonna fit somewhere, it's gonna fit there. But like the best article that came out from this was a Kotaku article, just rubbing Square's face in it, that like you make this purchase ostensibly to bolster your efforts for Web3, to see that like, oh yeah, the NFT market is fucking cratering, which folks, we absolutely love to see. We love to see it. The two big numbers are
non-fungible monkeys. They're all worthless
sales
now.
Yeah, beyond the number of, like, there's too many to count now, the number of scams and security breaches that have, and thefts and
no joke,
all that shit.
I saw I saw something about obviously we've seen plenty of celebrities and athletes getting into this because they're told by their managers it's easy money and
it is for them.
Pay you to
it is for them. That's why they're doing it.
Right,
yeah, because they have a built-in audience to buy the
100%.
shit.
But my favorite thing was I won't go into specifics, but an NBA player jumped on a podcast to talk about his crypto experience and then straight up was like, oh yeah, I've had $30,000 of crypto stolen out of my wallet in a like hack.
But it's a learning experience.
Was this De'Aaron
that's a
Fox?
learning experience.
No,
Literally, that's what he said.
Iguodala.
He was like, it's a learning. Yeah, it was Andre Iguodala. Iguodala. He's just like, that's.
I thought it was Fox.
It's what happens.
It's a learning experience. It's a rite of passage, folks.
Do you know how sad it is that you're describing this, and I'm thinking of different players who've encountered NFTs and stuff, and trying to put together, like, is it De'Aaron Fox? Is it Jonathan Isaac?
The other main issue that with NFTs is, there's been 9.2 million of them sold at this point, and only 1.8 million buyers. So like there's no scarcity. There is no scarcity.
I mean, I sent that the meme this morning of the like NFTs are crashing, so I screenshotted all of them, and it was just that video rapidly rolling through all the monkeys.
Yeah, so the sales are down an astonishing 92% since the peak last November, along with what I think is the more telling bit is the 88% reduction in active wallets. So it's they're further consolidating to the
it was just pumping and dumping.
Exactly.
That's all it was.
Yeah.
But it's like now there's nobody.
People
there's
who
nobody
made their
left.
Money got out, and they made it like bandits.
So there's nobody left to scam. And it's
all the people who are left holding the soggy bagel.
Yeah,
are now sitting there.
The soggy bagel now. Like the guy who bought the NFT of Jack Dorsey's first tweet. I love that.
For how many $million and has only received a bid for $14,000.
$3 million.
Amazing.
2.9. We'll be a little more
incredible.
He did.
Oh, sorry. We won't round up that 0.1 million. We'll save the poor.
The 10th. Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. 14,000. Great investment decision.
So all this business with Square, though, seems to be happening under the umbrella of continued rumors that they are possibly going to be purchased by Sony, which, however, I'm growing ever more skeptical of. But the certain analysis is saying, oh, they make these sales of these studios and the IPs. It's all in service of streamlining the portfolio for an eventual buyout. My reservation comes from the fact that these rumors are continuing. The fact that all the major purchases that have happened with no leaks, no rumors whatsoever.
Sort of.
I mean, Microsoft Activision had no knowledge. The Bungie acquisition had no knowledge.
I'm thinking of specifically Sony in-house acquisitions, though, like Housemarque and Bluepoint.
Sure, okay.
Which were leaked well ahead of time.
Yeah, I mean, Sony is at least being upfront that they say that more purchases for them are imminent.
So it's one of those. That's the only thing that I still think gives it some credence. Is that Sony has had some more open acquisitions recently where it's like, hey, they're going to be buying Bluepoint. And then like 2 months later, hey, look, they bought Bluepoint. But we've talked about it where they wanted to streamline to more of just their Eastern IP because they didn't really want to keep trying to copy the Western style development cycle anymore.
Which I think is probably the fairest explanation that you could give, because I think that there is definitely some truth to that they, when they stick to their roots, so to speak, they actually are more successful actually in an international market, that rather than trying to, like you say, copy a production process that does not fit with their ethos, their history, the way that the money moves around, it causes more problems, and just it doesn't translate to more success. Whereas you have, say games like Final Fantasy, where they are developing in their own kind of native space, see actually more natural appeal across international lines.
It's nice that you bring up Final Fantasy, because that's actually another point that I put into the Square Enix acquisition box, is that the big rumor that Final Fantasy 16 will be PS5 exclusive returning back to becoming a Sony exclusive title. I think that is another one of those like big indicators, and that supposedly, according to the creator, at a recent conference, the game is done essentially, and they're getting the trailer put together for a release soon. So that should be interesting in the coming months, I would say.
Any other thoughts, insights, analysis into the reasons behind what Square is doing that seem on its face at least somewhat baffling?
I mean, it definitely came out of nowhere. I was not expecting that. Was it Monday morning when this news came out? In our time zone.
Yeah. I mean, I think to Matt's point earlier, like none of these names, I mean, clearly they weren't making money, but like you look at these names though, and it is a little surprising that they couldn't have been more successful with what is widely known, pretty well regarded IP on its face. Like the Tomb Raider series I mean, that's a
Pretty
big
iconic,
name in action adventure gaming. I think honestly, I think the failure of Marvel Avengers is a big part of this. Like that, for them to have done what they did and lose
one single game,
million,
essentially
So
losing them the
look at
same
the
amount
raw
of money
value.
that they're making off these sales.
That's what I was going
Right.
to say. They basically lost just about the same amount of money that this was end up acquired for. And you look at that a little bit and you wonder how much that actually had to do with it. But I mean, Marvel's Avengers could have been a good game. Like there's an idea in there that could have worked, but they fucked it by making it a live service game. Like that was the immediate fucking, because the second I saw it was live service, I took it off my radar.
But Square is obviously not learning their lesson because they're just charging straight ahead with even more bullshit.
That's what I was about to
brand
say.
new breaking. We've talked about Babylon's Fall having 7 players. Yesterday it hit a new low of 1 concurrent player on Steam.
Oh my god. Dude, but like that's the thing. They seem to be blaming the failure of that game on the fucking like studio and IP itself, as opposed to the fact that it was a shitty game as a service. And I think
it also did come at a weird time where like Avengers hype was really at the peak, and to release an Avengers game that doesn't tie in at all to the Avengers series and franchise that has been built
elsewhere. They 100%. You're not wrong about that.
It's like, who doesn't remember the memes of like the Captain America she tells you about, and the Captain America she tells like
it tells you not to worry about.
Captain America not to worry about. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, like 100. One of those that decision was bad too. But like, I think it does speak to them thinking that, oh, it's not the game as a service model. We still can do.
Well, no,
like
because they still look at the fact that there are games as service games that make money.
Exactly.
Like,
no, 100%.
They clearly look at it as like it clearly worked for some people. We're just like, that didn't work, so we're selling it no more.
No, that sucks, because it just means they're gonna try and do that shit again.
I mean, there's something about like, be prepared to see like Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy like leave storefronts in the like coming year or so if the licensing agreement doesn't get worked out.
Yeah, I have it in. I have Guardians on Steam already, so
yeah, like if you already own it, you keep it. It's just one of those, like, be prepared to see it like leave resale.
I enjoyed Guardians. It's one I recommend. It's
yeah, it was a good game. I've said that.
Yeah, it's not a huge investment time wise or effort wise, but good story. I'm actually a little bit more fond of the gameplay than many of the people who are still quite positive on the game as a whole. They're like, oh, the gameplay is like, whatever. It's really just in it for story and the writing. But I actually kind of liked the team style gameplay. Gave me a Mass Effect feel.
Yeah, it was definitely Mass Effect with a Marvel skin on it.
Okay. Yeah, maybe I might explore that one at some point soon.
It's like a 12-hour game or like 15-hour game.
Yeah,
it's not a big thing. It was one of my palate cleansers after spending hundreds of hours on The Witcher and other things.
And the only thing you need to know, Andrew, is that Cosmo is best boy.
He is. He remains best boy. Yes. All right. So before we move into another topic that again we just are just constantly on the radar. It's Activision, boys. It's back. It's back with a bang. Before
You're never going away.
Yeah, never going away. It's never going away. This is an Activision podcast.
It's one of those things I've always wondered. People, they make the joke about sleep paralysis demons. Like, always wondered if it's a real thing. Activision Blizzard is my sleep paralysis demon.
But before we get into the newest lawsuits and everything, let's talk about Overwatch 2. The Overwatch 2 beta is here.
Yes,
we have our former Overwatch addict here in the chat. So Matt, hit us with your impressions of what you've heard, what you've seen.
I mean, it's Overwatch. It's it really was just pushed out as a free update to people who have Overwatch 1. You don't get to keep your original game. It's just, here's Overwatch new update. Here you go. No more tank. Oh, one tank, no two. Have fun with that. No real changes to any of the support class because fuck you guys. You already play the worst position. You don't deserve fun. We tried that once and people complained, so we don't do that anymore. It's really just
how much
there's
are
so much normal
charging for this?
So it's going to end up being another $60 full price game.
Goddamn.
I'm assuming because the real bonus, because this is just beta. This is just early release PvP. The real attraction is supposed to be the co-op PvE, the story mode. That's supposed to come with.
That would
Overwatch
interest me.
2.
I'm not a competitive gamer, so it's always story for me.
That I've said it to other people, is depending on how that goes, that might be the only thing to make me make a new account and jump back in. Is I would play
slope,
co-op,
slippery slope.
You're I'm just gonna have a taste.
Yeah, and then,
we may
and
not.
then you guys are doing a wellness check on me.
So
we're like, hey, we were supposed to have a recording today, and you weren't there. We did it without you, and it's wait, what? We have a recording. It's a Wednesday. Man, Saturday. What have you been doing? And then I turn my camera on, and my living room is just Doritos, and
it's like the prequels meme. It's oh man, what a week! And it's General Kenobi. It's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
No, it's one of those things I saw was they were talking about the viewership went down 99% week over week. And it's because a lot of the viewership was just tied to people doing the Twitch drops to get the emotes or whatever the fuck they were dropping. I don't know because I haven't paid attention because I'm a good repressed addict.
He's reformed.
Yeah. We're very proud.
But realistically, I said it before the recording, it could have just been an email. It was how it feels. Yeah. They really just took away one of the roles in tank. And we're here you go. Oh, and by the way, we made one of the DPS heroes into a tank. So now you have 3 or 4 tank options, which are just glorified DPS characters that don't really fit the role in the way you'd expect. Have fun playing with people who only play Hammond, which is the hamster ball that you saw.
Why wouldn't you play? Why would you play as anything but that? Is my question.
Seems like the logical choice.
I mean, as someone who dropped Overwatch when Hammond released, and Hammond was my final straw, I can tell you why. Because they made a high mobility, high survivable tank whose sole job is to contest points and be annoying. And so basically what he would do is say you were on a point with a big pole in the middle, a pillar or something. He would attach his grappling hook to the middle pole, run into your team, hit his shield button, which gives him shield health based on the amount of people he's near, and then just spin in circles.
Yeah, that seems a little broken.
And by the time you burn through enough of his shield and regular health, he gets his shield back off cooldown, and he hits it again, and then he releases and flies away and gets healed and comes back, and he just never dies, ever. He's always alive, always hunting, always squeaking.
Oh, I mean, I kind of respect that they made a hamster the OP, an OP.
I mean, that
character.
was when they were like, "Oh, people don't want to play tanks. Let's make tanks fun." And they just made a bunch of tanks who, or like tank hybrid characters who are genuinely unfun for everyone else to play
For
against.
Balance? What is this? Never heard of it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Never heard of it.
their power creep is ridiculous. They're like, oh, people play this one meta too much. So instead of like nerfing one thing and changing that whole meta, we're gonna power creep a bunch of other characters up to it and make it so that can never be played again as long as those characters exist.
And just Blizzard just seems like it's on its last legs, man. It's like you said, is it a real
They're
is it a
dying.
real studio anymore? I don't.
Yo,
I don't
dude,
think
they're
so.
bringing Diablo Immortal to PC. Remember the infamous "what you don't have phones"? It's coming to PC now,
Yeah.
and still isn't out yet.
Jesus Christ.
That's amazing.
Oh, you guys don't have phones? Shut the fuck up.
I mean, like, do you think they're gonna Microsoft is coming to their rescue?
But let's be real. They're buying it for King above all else. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Candy Crush is the real money.
That's where the ka-ching comes
Yeah.
from. Yeah.
Do you understand how weaponized the human
And to help
psychology
Bobby.
is in Candy Crush?
Yeah, that's that.
Like Candy Crush has found the perfect balance of dopamine to make you pay to get the boosts and the bonuses.
Yeah, and Andrew, you bring it up. Let's move into the real story of the week. Is a new lawsuit filed against Activision by a group of New York retirement funds that all hold various stakes in the company are, demanding that they, open their books to basically to prove that, this sale was not essentially forced through purely to both avoid possible liability at the hands of not just the board, but CEO Bobby Kotick in particular. Sorry, but also just as a quick way to personally enrich himself. I've got a few quotes from some various articles that are pulled from the filings that I think are worth reading in full. So yes, they just are alleging that the lawsuit is alleging that the deal was instigated to provide cover. That they believe that there's evidence in the books that Kotick went and sought this purchase immediately after the news broke about the various lawsuits and the culture. It's just that this is just the only way that they could escape this. So here, the first quote is: "With the announced merger, Kotick will be able to escape liability and accountability entirely, and he will instead continue to serve as an executive after the merger closes. Worse, despite his potential liability for breaches of fiduciary duty, the company's board allowed Kotick himself to negotiate the transaction with Microsoft. The board's decision to entrust Kotick with the negotiation process is inexcusable for the additional reason that Kotick stands to personally receive substantial material benefits whose value is not directly aligned with the merger price." Like we've talked about before, he stands to make upwards of like $400 million. And it like the price only goes up and up and up, like depending on like when
100%.
and how he goes off into the sunset on his golden.
It's just the embodiment of the Woody Harrelson patting himself with his money.
Right.
There's just no way. I mean, I don't know. We don't have our legal scholar on today, but like as much as I agree with the suit, I can't imagine they're actually gonna come to win this. I just don't know.
That's why I dismissed it when I first read it.
I have no faith whatsoever that any justice will ever be done. That the rich won't continue to get richer and escape all forms of liability and punishment. Without a doubt, no, I don't think it's going anywhere. And I am no legal scholar. I have no knowledge of the merits of the case as well. If this is still being talked about when Mike is next on, we'll obviously bring it up again. But the suit goes on to contend more specifically the actual, which I think potentially maybe has more weight into it, is that basically it's like that they are breaking their fiduciary duty by not or it's like that the price was too low. Saying that the price itself is a contention. The final price of $95 a share The suit alleges was just a 1.16% premium to Activision's 30-day average stock price prior to the first lawsuit it faced from California's Department of Fair Employment and Housing.
So like, just sorry to cut you off, but that to me right there is why I really feel like they're not going to get anything. It's still a premium. Like, it's still a premium. Like, it's still over. It's still over that price. So like, you can't even say, it's just like, oh, well, the marketplace said, you know,
it is what it is.
We only think there's this 1.16 additional value to what the current public price is. So that's what you're getting. And like, I don't know how I think it's going to be very hard for them to prove that they like went against their fiduciary duty.
That's not how the Activision board sees it either, because, you know, they promoted the deal as being a 45.3% premium
exactly
over the price, but that's conveniently because this price was only true after the value of the company was, you know, cratered by the bevy of lawsuits, you know, brought about by the board's own misconduct. So again, it's like the board has say Kotick has survived every single call for him to you know, be removed by the board. He's like, you know, he's got the board solely, like, you know, securely in his pocket. You know, there's nothing. And that then moves to the other story of the day. The board again is no, like, you know, no one on the board is to be praised for, you know, they have, I love this. They have no you know, say they're doing their fiduciary duty. Like, that's all they care about is, you know, securing the bag for themselves. You know, a report came out that a group of shareholders put forward a provision to requesting that all shareholders vote for a proposal to make a report on the company's efforts to prevent harassment and discrimination. The board responded saying, no. We vote against this. This is bad. And also saying that the kicker for me, before even getting into the details of the suit, was like, oh yeah, you could vote for it, but we're not legally bound to any choice you make. It's like we could just still ignore it, and we will ignore it, even if you get that 51%. We're still gonna say,
even if you do this,
fuck you.
Fuck you. And I like that they claim it's a waste of resources.
Right.
You know, that's, hey, like you said, fiduciary duty. They are just trying to return as much money to you as the shareholder as possible, even if it means every woman that works there is sexually harassed by all of the other nerds they work with.
Beyond the moral abhorrence of that, of, you know, subjecting their workers to those conditions, let's talk about the reality that it goes against that fiduciary duty, like the money that they lose in these lawsuits. You know, it's like that the risk and liability that they incur by not actively working to or being transparent in how they are combating these issues.
Bobby and these guys aren't having fun and playing it loose with the employees, how are they going to make good games?
It's all going to be done in-house, man. They're just going to keep chugging along, doing what they're doing.
They all watched Grandma's Boy and just started idolizing JP.
Dude, it's almost like that's what
it's worked. It's worked for them in the past, so why change now? If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
For real. And like, just back to not to completely change, it's still on the Blizzard subject, but like, we also heard that news of the allegedly Gavin Newsom interfering. So like, who's to say Miss Hochul or someone else doesn't get involved and help him out? Like, clearly this guy has resources.
Directly. Yeah. The board is tied up in all sorts of shit, but, you know, I don't think it's worth dwelling too much on, because Activision going to do Activision. You know, they're gonna keep on keeping on. And like we said, like, we cannot escape them. And it is something that, you know, we're going to be talking about for at least till the deal either goes through or it's not. Which
I miss the days when Activision just meant Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
This one thing though I have seen.
I miss the days when Blizzard was only in the news for censoring esports players.
I have seen more stuff though. At least market analysts saying that they're growing more and more skeptical that the deal will actually go through. Have you seen anything about that?
I have seen. That was something I was going to say, is that I have started to see some things suggest that the deal could end up falling apart. But like I think Microsoft wants this shit. I really do.
Happening. I mean, Microsoft
wants everything.
They can just throw their weight around.
Pass.
They can throw their weight around. Heavily enough. It's like
Microsoft. Yeah,
the largest tech company in the world. Like they can do.
Yeah, they're not gonna. They really don't care. Like unless it results in.
Oh no!
Like
I've got a left field one here for you.
Broken apart somehow.
It gets turned down, and then Apple swoops in out of nowhere and buys Activision Blizzard and amplifies them.
Well, we see that we've seen stuff in the past that Apple is trying to, in some ways,
they stop? I thought they dropped out.
I thought that they're trying to revamp their non-mobile gaming apparatus.
Yeah,
I don't know what we'll.
It'll be interesting.
Well, who can forget when they were talking about the new, was it the M1 Max chip? And they were like, it's stronger than a 3090.
Yeah.
And then people did the actual real life comparisons. Like, no, it isn't. It's like stronger in this like one single threaded application.
Yeah. So they're allowed to say that it's stronger.
Where they were testing, they just happened to be testing in that application.
Yeah. Seems legit to me.
Like I loved all of the clickbait that came out from that on YouTube with all of the tech channels like doing their own tests. They're like, would you look at this? The 3090 is still the better.
Yeah. Oh, what a surprise. No, but in all honesty, I think if anything, if this doesn't immediately happen, the deal gets better for Microsoft. Like I just don't know how Microsoft doesn't end up acquiring this company.
It'll end up getting bought by Tencent.
Before we end, like, so rather than having ending on another downer, I'd say we have some positives. Showing some I hesitate to say strength of the ongoing labor movement within the games industry as a whole. And because just because Biden had a photo op with these people in the Oval Office means fucking jack shit, but there were representatives of the Paizo Workers Union, the tabletop union, president, cool. And at that representatives of the CWA were present at that media op.
Yeah. You think he knew who he was taking pictures with?
No, absolutely not.
Not a chance.
Absolutely.
Do you think they were like, these are tourists?
Absolutely not. No,
we restarted the White House tours, sir, and we're giving everyone a photo opportunity with you.
No, he's still thinking about having lunch and playing golf with Strom Thurmond. He's stuck in that memory.
Yeah. Old Strom.
All right, folks. I think that does it for today. That was a fun one.
It was.
Till next time. Be sure to follow us on all the socials at CampCompod on Twitter and Instagram. At campaign_comrades on Twitch. We stream regularly Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays, and Sundays. I'm working to get back into my Thursday days. I'm still potentially gonna be playing around with times, but follow us on Twitter. It's the best place to find out when new episodes drop, when streams are going up, and do the thing. And till then, we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.